Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, my wife of 10 years cheated on me and we got a divorce. Now, after the divorce, she insists that I must give her my beautiful house in the mountains, claiming that she deserves it. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. The title story starts like this. I love living in the city and I couldn't imagine my day-to-day life not being in one. I learned at a fairly young age that mental rest was just as important as the physical, and sometimes the city was not great for that. I was lucky entering one of the many housing market crashes here in the United States. I got a house in the mountains for cheap. Well, not cheap exactly, but a lot cheaper than it is worth now, or if the economy was good. I was 25 when I got that property, and it was before I had even met the woman that I was gonna marry when I was 33. One last jump to me being 44, and I'm living in the city with a wife and 3 kids. Spending weekends sometimes with them and sometimes alone up in the mountain house to relax. I find out that my wife wanting to stay behind often because she really did not like the mountains was a lie, and in fact she just wanted to cheat on me without getting caught. Well, she got caught, and after months of fighting, a divorce was imminent. Sorry if it seems I glossed over that, but the real important stuff comes from us trying to settle in the divorce who gets what. I did not want to be that guy trying to find a reason to not pay alimony or child support. I agreed to all of that, but there was one thing that I would not budge on. My ex-wife in the fights with lawyers was demanding that she get my mountain home. I was point-blank refusing. The home in the city I was willing to let her and the kids stay in, while I was the one that moved. However, the mountain house was off the table, and I had every right to want to keep it for myself. When you get divorced and split assets, things that you went into the marriage with get taken into account. I had the house before knowing her, and it was only in my name, and now she was trying to claim that she had rights to it because she had invested money into that home. Claiming that it was a dump before I married her, and she was the one that decorated it and renovated it. And yes, she helped me pick out some furniture and stuff, but even then, I paid for all of the work done to it. I felt like I was not being only fair, but generous, considering that she was the one that had been cheating on me for about 2 years. I could have been spiteful and tried to make sure that she didn't get anything from me. The only thing stopping me from that was my kids and wanting them to still have a good and relatively normal life. She did not have this same class and tact as she decided to start bad-mouthing me. Not to her friends or anything, no, she started talking crap about me right in front of me to our kids. Telling them that their dad was greedy and wanted them to be homeless. That daddy only cared about money, and once I moved out, I would not want to see them anymore. In my opinion, this is the lowest she could possibly go, and I started to document this for our divorce hearing, where she of course would be fighting for the house I mentioned before. I went in with all the paperwork showing that I owned the mountain house and paid for everything regarding it. I even heard her lawyer at one point whisper that I was giving her a lot and he recommended just taking it. But she wanted to be greedy and drag our finances and debts into court. And well, she did just that, and because of it I found out the debt that she had racked up during our marriage. Credit cards that she had taken out and pretty much ignored paying back. With the purchase history on them showing it was all for her to get luxury items and not for anything important. At this point, I realized that she didn't want the mountain house to be spiteful, she wanted it to sell to pay off her massive debt. I had enough and decided that if she wanted a fight, I was gonna give her one. In addition to me fighting for the mountain house, I was now opening a fight for custody of the kids too, using the fact that she was financially irresponsible to show that she would not use child support money to care for them properly. Now, that day in court, 2 things were decided. Number 1, being that she had no right to my mountain home, and since it was mine going into the marriage, she had 0 rights to it. The second being that what I said regarding the kids was only speculation of what could happen and not enough of a reason, unfortunately. However, that changed only a few months later when she was being evicted from the home due to lack of payment. And had no credit to get a place since her debt had destroyed her. The money I was giving her would have been enough to keep them afloat if she was careful. Clearly, she was not tough and didn't think to try to get a job. And now we are back in court with the kids being placed in my custody now, the entire time her crying and saying that the problem was me not giving enough for child support and not helping her. even though it is the courts that determine how much I give. And also, if she had ever called me saying like one of our kids was in the hospital, I would have of course taken the entire bill for that myself. The kids, of course, were a little confused because of all this crap she'd been saying about me, thinking that I did not care and it took months for us to get back in a good place and settle down. I was living in the mountain cabin and moving them in was not a big problem. After a while, it turned out that they loved living up there and realized that I did love and care about them. Also, I did keep tabs with my ex because despite not having custody, she still had a right to see them. She was their mother after all. The problem was that her being homeless led to a lot of issues because she wanted them overnight, yet didn't really have a solid place she was staying at, so the courts never agreed. She got day visits for a while, but lately she seems to have been slowly moving away, not seeing the kids as often or answering calls about if she is going to. I don't know if she is still homeless or living with family or what, I just know that I can only do my best to keep her in the kids' lives. But I suspect that she's going to just slowly fizzle out and disappear somewhere. I wish I saw the kind of horrible person she was before I got married, but that's why they say hindsight is 20/20. At least I got great kids from that marriage, so I will never think those 10 years of my life were a waste. Just part of the roller coaster ride that is my life. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm so happy that OP got custody of the kids and in the end everything turned out well for him, it seems. Either way, if you enjoy these relationship related stories, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post a comment because that would help me tremendously. The next one is a story from r/bestofredditor updates, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite subreddits. So am I the a-hole for refusing to share my vacation home with my in-laws for 6 months after they sold their house without consulting me? Background is the following. My husband, 35 male, and I, 33 female, have been married for 5 years. We own a beautiful vacation home on the beach that we built ourselves and use throughout the year. My in-laws, 60s, have always been welcome guests, visiting for a few weeks here and there, contributing financially towards maintenance costs. Last month, my in-laws suddenly announced that they were selling their house to downsize and move into a tiny condo. Apparently, they've been secretly harboring this idea for months, never mentioning it to me or my husband. They plan to close on the sale in 2 weeks and then move into our vacation home for 6 months while they figure things out. I was floored. This house is our sanctuary, not a retirement home extension. We use it frequently, have friends and family booked to visit throughout the year, and rely on the income it generates during peak season. My in-laws, on the other hand, haven't lifted a finger on the property themselves and contributed only minimally. My husband, bless his sweet heart, is more understanding. He feels bad for his parents and believes that we can make it work. His in-laws, sensing my resistance, are now guilt-tripping us, claiming they have nowhere else to go and offering to pay significantly more than their usual contribution. So Reddit, am I the a-hole here for refusing to let them move in? On one hand, I feel obligated to help family in need, but on the other, this feels like an outrageous imposition on our personal space and finances. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm curious what you have to think about this, but I would say these in-laws are absolutely crazily entitled and there's no way in hell I would let them move into my property. That is just outrageous, as OP said. Anyway, now we got some further info from OP. He said, my relationship with them is strained because this is not the first time they have grossly overstepped their boundaries. This has led to many a fight between my husband and me. My husband sees no wrong in their behavior and thinks that we should just help them. Every time they're at the vacation home, they've commented on how much they love it and would love to live in a place like this at retirement. So I feel this is a very intentional move on their part. Not letting them stay will create conflict in my marriage, but I'm pretty positive that they will never leave if we let them move in. What else they have done? Well, on our first marriage anniversary, they gifted us a chicken. We lived in an apartment at the time. On Valentine's Day, the second year, they showed up at our house mid-afternoon because they thought it would be special to spend the night with us. On the birth of our daughter, my mother-in-law refused to leave the delivery room until I had the nurse drag her out, and then she sobbed obnoxiously loud in the hallway outside the room. When the pandemic happened, she ordered us cases and cases of beans and other canned food to help us prep for the apocalypse and then sent us the bill. My mother-in-law demands all holidays with them and shows up unannounced to my parents, who are 4 hours away each holiday we spend with them, and forces us out of my bedroom and we sleep on the pull-out sofa the whole visit. My mother-in-law demanded my husband go to her house last year to fix something on our daughter's birthday and then kept him there till after the birthday party was over and then had a birthday party she planned for my daughter at her house the next day. Our second daughter's birth was similar, where she sobbed and instantly FaceTimed my husband since I refused to let her into my delivery room. She sent a mixed nuts package to my parents at Christmas this last year, knowing my dad is deathly allergic to tree nuts. I could go on and on. And now we got some comments from Reddit saying, "Not the a-hole, it's outrageous, you would be well within your right to say no. But I'm curious, how is your relationship with them otherwise? How is your husband's relationship with them? What other options do they have? Again, you have every right to say no and it would not make you the a-hole, but is it worth the damage it could do? In other words, are you okay with whatever fallout occurs? If you end up deciding to let them stay, I would be very clear about how upset and disrespected you feel, and that if they ever pull anything like that again, you are gonna have major problems." I usually try not to edit comments after so much time and traffic has passed, but I just have to add with the additional info from OP's comments, mother-in-law is an absolute nightmare. Anyone who throws a sobbing fit about not being in the delivery room when you're actively in labor is a complete and utter entitled narcissistic a-hole, and the other examples were just as bad. Good job putting your foot down, OP. And I'm glad to hear your husband is so far rising to the occasion and laying down the law. There may be hope for him yet. Comment number 2, no, not the a-hole, don't do this. Don't fall for the "because family needs it" BS. This is not family in need of your space, this is running a con to get into your space. Then can find plenty of spaces. Hell, take a cruise for 6 months and if they need help, you can help them find a temporary space for 6 months. In fact, why not meet them with a list of a few places they can look at? I know they won't look, but it sends the right message. They just showed you who they are sneaky, manipulative, only care about what they want and are willing to try and guilt trip you to give it to them. Nothing in this says that they are loving and want what is best for you. What do they even mean by figure things out? It sounds like they don't have a plan and are just expecting to move in and stay forever. Once they've established residency, you cannot just evict them, you need to go through a process, and since your husband cannot say no now, do you really expect that he will be able to say no later? There's no upside for you in this. There's only grief and pain. I wouldn't do this at all, but if forced to, I would have them on a lease. That way you can evict them once it ends, and if they get in there without a set end date, it will go much worse for you. I'm sorry your husband doesn't understand that his parents are using you both. Good luck. Comment number 3, not the a-hole. This is a hill to die on. Your family's financial well-being is at stake. Your husband has 2 choices. Tell his parents no and keep the beach house, or lose the beach house in the divorce. And now, ripe stars, we thankfully have an update to the entire story, and it reads like this. So I will give a quick update while I wait to get the kids from school and answer a few questions I saw pop up. We co-own the beach house. We bought it in 2020 when interest rates were super low before houses skyrocketed. The in-laws have helped us with projects and pay for a few things, but so do my parents. So we have never thought of their contribution as anything but help from parents. They had their annual Old Farts Christmas party, their words not mine, there and this past December, and had the place for a week free of charge for them and all their guests. So they definitely have gotten plenty of use of it. We had a come to Jesus moment yesterday, and I was the a-hole to my husband, to be honest. I told him I was done and I wasn't even entertaining them staying there, as it is our business and this is bad business. I basically told him that I was over his mom, and it was at that point that I'm about to peace out because I cannot handle her crap anymore. Previous to this, I was no contact with her and would entertain them when they would come to visit. They never stayed at our house as we live relatively close to them. He still has no clue if they are truly selling their house, if they are upside on bills, or they are just a-holes, but I honestly don't care. My parents are immigrants and own a restaurant and have worked their asses off to create a fantastic life for me and my siblings. They also taught us the value of money and working hard for the things that we have. The vacation home was bought cheap, but 90% of the renovations were done by me during my free time. Renovations are my true love. Nursing pays the bills, I love it too, but it doesn't fill the creative cup. I told him he would lose the house to his parents over my dead body, and if he feels the need to financially set them up, he can do so with extra money he earns from picking up shifts also as a nurse. Basically, I told him their failure was not an emergency on my part. They've always kept up the Jones and spent exorbitantly, so they might be broke, and again, I don't care. I've barely tolerated his mom for the past few years. I'll be cordial because I was raised well, but I'm over-tolerating their nonsense. I will say he does see all this crap that she pulls, but he was raised that mom knows best. He is Puerto Rican, so this is partially cultural, but I'm done here. I worked yesterday and busted my ass and then drove the kids to the beach house last night and picked up dinner, and we are there, and I just thought, F no. So time will tell, but he called his parents and on speakerphone told them that they couldn't stay, but the offer to condo hunt is still open, but he needs to know the price range and all that jazz. His mom cried and I flipped the phone off, so as of this moment, it's not happening. I also told him if it's a problem he can quit claim deed the beach house and I'll cover the expenses and manage it myself. Because mama don't play. And yeah, Ripe Stars, props to OP for staying consistent on this and not giving in to these entitled in-laws. Honestly, I just cannot get over how toxic and entitled these in-laws are. I feel so bad for OP. Either way, let me know in the comments what you would have done in this situation. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. You know, I will never really understand people that just want to cause a disruption in other people's lives. The kind of people that get a kick out of being an a-hole for no reason. I mean, seriously, even at my angriest moments, I've never wanted to cause harm or be an inconvenience to someone else. Okay, maybe I have wanted to push buttons or something here or there, but I've never generally just wanted to be nasty to people. And yes, especially people I don't know. Well, apparently not all people in Serbia feel the same. This situation took place about 3 years ago and to this day I still don't know what this particular Karen had against me. But damn, she really made my life a living hell. She totally had it out for me. Don't worry, I did indeed get my revenge, so you will definitely want to read until the end. Now, I lived in a pretty nice neighborhood. I mean, most of Serbia is pretty nice if we are being honest. Whether you live in an apartment or a house, most of the time the streets are big and wide, and because of this not only is there a lot of street space, but there's also a lot of sidewalk space. With the way our neighborhood was built, most lots had a back house behind them, except in this case they were considered separate property. The house across diagonal the street from me had a back house. It looked pretty beat up and when I first moved in, I thought it was abandoned, but apparently some little lady lived there. And well, guess what? That little lady turned out to be my Karen. I was coming home from work one day and as I am pulling up to my house, I noticed a car parked in the middle of the street. Now, like I said, the streets are pretty wide, but she was parked in such a way that I could not get my car past her. I pulled up as close as I could and she was just standing outside of her car smoking a cigarette. I almost expected her to say hello to me when I rolled my window down, but instead she asked me where I was going. Me, to my house? I live on the street. Karen, oh yes? I have not seen you here before. Me, well, I have not seen you here before either, so... Karen, well, you cannot drive past this road. I own it. Huh? First of all, it's a public road. Second of all, even if it was a private road, she would have to know that people need to drive past it anyways because there is houses past this private road. And of course, she really did not like when I confronted her about that. She scoffed and threw her cigarette out and just drove away. If you're gonna try and make problems for people, at least make sense. Anyways, I pulled up into my driveway and got settled for the next. The next day, I went to talk to the neighbor that was in front of the beat-up house and told her what happened. Apparently, Karen used to live in this neighborhood, but she moved out because her house basically turned into a hoarder house. Although no one has ever been able to prove that and it would be considered trespassing if we went to go look, the outside condition of the house led me to believe that it was most likely true. My neighbor said that when Karen actually lived in this neighborhood, nobody liked her. She would always complain about people parking in the street, but then if my neighbor parked in her driveway, she would complain that she was blocking the easement to the back house. Which, by the way, is actually untrue because there was a section of the driveway that was a lot wider in order to get to the back house. She was simply crazy. That's pretty much what I got from the conversation. And it looked like I was right because just a couple of days later I was dealing with Karen again. I woke up one weekend morning and my car was getting towed. And guess who was standing out there smoking a cigarette and watching it all? Karen. Apparently she called the towing company because I was parked on private property. You mean the street lady? If it was private property, then why were all of these houses built on it? When I asked the tow truck driver how this was even possible, he let it slip that he did not really know what was going on and that he was Karen's friend. So basically he only towed my car because she asked him to. Oh, and his breath reeked of alcohol. So if Karen wanted to play this game, I would play it. Unfortunately for Karen, I had the money to get my car back and I had the time to waste. So what did I do? Well, first of all, I called the city and complained that the condition of the house was a safety concern. It seemed abandoned and I was not sure if anyone lived there, but if they did, I was concerned. That is what I told the city worker. Oh, and when I told my neighbor about it, she also called the city to complain of a terrible smell coming from the house. So not only were there now multiple complaints against her, and so the city did in fact come out to inspect the house and they actually found that it is unsafe to live in. It was in fact a hoarder house, but there were multiple safety issues with the house itself. How bad do you neglect a house that is considered unlivable? I will never understand, but anyway, not only does Karen's house get demolished, but the neighbor was able to buy the piece of property that the abandoned house once sat on and made her property even bigger. Play with fire and you will get burned. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance and I hope to see you again tomorrow.